Hello YouTube, today's going to be a very interesting topic today. This one's going to be kind of considered controversial depending which aspect you ask and which generation you ask. But I feel like this one that has to be addressed, and I don't think it's really been addressed that much in detail on certain videos I've seen from other YouTubers. And I want to kind of clear the air out of it. As I said, it's going to be a bit of a hot button issue on this one, especially in the subculture, because there's going to be so many debates over this, many arguments about this. And it's going to be about the established difference between goth and industrial. Now, before I do start this video, I would like to give a shout out to Dr. Sanders from Gothcast, who we are going to be doing a little bit of a collaboration on his upcoming video. So be sure to check out his channel on Gothcast. I'll send the link down below if you haven't already heard of him. And hopefully you will enjoy his content. I surely have. It's one of probably the most educational goth YouTube channels I've seen so far. Now, with that out the way, let's get started. Okay, the first thing I wanted to address, there are certain key points which I feel like are important to establish between the difference between goth and industrial. Now, if we look through the actual blueprint and the history timeline, we will actually go back towards the 1970s, where most of the alternative outbreak actually happened. So, on one hand, we have goth, and as we know through my proto-punk video, that it's ascended through post-punk. But through post-punk, it's ascended through origin of the punk movements during the 70s. Now, punk has been around a little bit more before the influence of industrial. So as you know, this is the rawness, this is the aggressive, free power chord situation, 2-minute songs. So you have this type of raw sense of anger, this feeling and establishment that needs to be heard and addressed, and you rebel through that certain concept. Now, but during the 80s, once punk kind of became a commercial commodity within the mainstream, such as, what I mean by that is, you'll have people deliberately dressing punk, you'll have the sex shop that Vivian Westwood and Malcolm McLaren opened, and it took the meaning away from punk to the point where punk became such a commercial success that no one wanted to be it anymore, and many venues stopped allowing punk bands to play. So during that, so you had New Wave, which came out, and this is where the influence of industrial were coming at. New Wave helped to bring this new sense of vibrant and experimentation, shall we say. Not only did it allow a more commercial, happier sounding, but it brought, and this is the most important aspect, the electronical sound through the alternative scene. Because you have bands such as, let's say for example, John Lydon, who was in a well-known punk band as we know, and he went to form Public Image Limited. If you listen to both of them, it's a completely different sound. One had raw, the other one had this type of commercial, proper structured length of song, which is about 4 or 5 minutes. You'll have slow tempoed beats, quite major keyed, but also you'll also have the introduction to not only just drum machines, but you'll also have synthesizers playing the main part and all that stuff. Now, before people have a go at me on this one, I'm not saying that a goth band can't have new wave influences. That's not true. If we listen to Susan the Banshees, for example, they had many new wave influences on their album, and you can hear that clearly through the Kaleidoscope album and the Juju album on some aspect. Very much like with The Cure, with their Japanese Whispers album, if you listen to Walk, it's very much where it's merging together. The 80s was a time where new wave kind of overtook the London scene in particular, with this commercial success of having synthesizers and all this stuff, and it worked really well in the goth era as well, because you can hear the difference between goth influenced new wave and then modern, well, commercial new wave. I mean, as said, you have The Cure with their synth stuff, you can hear through their back category, but at the same time you have bands such as Duran Duran and all that lot, even the New Romantic era, which had incorporated a lot of new wave style into them. Listen to Adam and the Ants, Culture Club even had it to an aspect. Once you realise there is a difference between them, it's quite easy to pick it out. Basically, long story short, punk bands had to convert to new wave for them to keep on playing gigs and kind of changing their tone a little bit to an aspect. This is why you hear many post-punk bands or punk bands going to a different direction, which became more television friendly and more radio friendly at the same time. Now, going towards the 90s, this is where it starts to change quite drastically. Already through the 80s, we are hearing this slow change in the goth and new wave scene. With the early example, as I personally find, is the Killing Joke stuff. They brought a lot of the drum beat and synthesizer capability into their music, but then worked upon it during later in the next 10-20 years. During the 90s, you could already hear the influence happening through acts like Ministry and all those type of more reliant on the drum beat sound. But during the same time in the 90s, you also had the new German expressionism of music, the new German sound. And this is where it's more vibrant. You can hear this more within the 90s, even though it starts a little bit in the late 80s. Blixa Bargeld's band Nuremberg is a good example of this, where they didn't really play their guitars or bass or instruments as much. They actually used their surroundings. This is where the term industrial, I find, comes into the aspect, because the surroundings around this new concoction of music brings this type of atmosphere where it's all metallic sounding, it is all industrialized based. And if you listen to some of Nuremberg's music, I'll send you a couple of links down below, such as Armenia, for example. It's a very clear understanding where you can hear this transition from poppy new wave into more darker aspects, which does incorporate the sound at the same time. But also from the 90s, you can also hear the transition of goth music at the same time. The Batcave sound, as we probably know it from the 80s, had died down at this point, and you had bands like Rosetta Stone, Fields of Nephilim, and The Mission kind of bringing their more similar-ish type of sound, quite underground at this point. Not very many people would know about bands like Rosetta Stone at this point unless you really looked into it or you were around during that time. And this is where the industrial scene kind of overtook it, where because the sound ended up becoming more popularized, it became more well known. And obviously during America's era of this, when 9 Inch Nails came out with their sound of what would be known as industrial, which kind of paved the way for acts like Marilyn Manson and Dope and all this stuff, which kind of incorporated the goth look, but took more of its main influences from the early new wave stuff and incorporated it with a slight metal influence to it, a more raw, like edginess to it, which they tried to take from the punk scene. But at the same time, industrial is very one-sided at the same time, because industrial then would later branch out into acts like cybergoth, which added EBM music, which, as you probably know from my 50 Goth Confessions, it's something I would never incorporate in. But at the same time, the subculture would also change. You would have the lovely neon dreadlocking cybergoths, and also during the industrial era, you'd also have the rivet heads, which would have the shaved undercuts with the hair tied back, kind of almost matrixy looking. And this is where the epitome of the 90s goth style incorporated in. But during this time, goth had a very lower underground status, as it always had been, and you didn't really hear much of it until, I guess you can kind of say, most bands from the early 2000s would take slight influences from goth act, or they'll try to revive the goth rock or death rock revival scene during the early 2000s, maybe the late 2010s. And even the music itself, you can hear a massive difference. From one side, you'll hear electronic-y, tribal drum patterns, almost staticky noise. And then on the one side, you would also hear this traditional sense of using the punk repertoire, this eeriness which the Batcave gave you. And in my personal aspect, as much as I do admit that goth and new wave had a little helping in the 80s, during the 90s it branched out into two completely different aspects, but the difference is only one would still try to hold on to the aspect that one is still goth and the other one isn't. Hopefully this is clear enough for you. I'm sorry if it seems like a little bit of a rant, but I wanted to get this off my chest for a while, and hopefully with the examples that I'm showing you, you'll understand that a little bit. Anyhow, this is all I've got for today, so I hope you enjoy my video, and I hope you see you very soon.